On this week's show, we're going to be trying to get a little bit more clearance out of the TRX 4 Sport by swapping out the skid plate.
The original TRX 4 Sport has got a very low skid plate, sitting about 1 centimeter lower than the actual chassis rail. Looking at the Scrambler, the skid plate sits flush with the chassis rail, but not just that, the links are sitting a lot higher than the skid plate itself. So they're not sitting flush at the rear, they are sitting a centimeter higher up, just giving me that bit of an edge of a performance more when I'm on hill climbs.
So I have removed the transfer case and disconnected the motor. My thought on this would be that everything rises because you're getting rid of a certain height on the bottom of the truck. That means everything needs to go up a little bit. But what this transfer case does, it actually fits onto the 3D printed skid plate quite perfectly. So the creator, what he's done, in the original one, the motor sits on top of the transfer case. In this case, obviously the transfer case has to be lifted in order for the so-called the extra height. The transfer case does have to be lifted as well, but it sits on an angle. And the reason for that is, I didn't understand it until I actually had the transfer case in my hand. The reason for that is that the motor sits underneath and not on top of that. So now the motor basically connects in and is still in the lower section of the truck. The motor doesn't actually rise up above this support here. The motor still sits in the lower section. So that makes the position of the motor stay in that low area where it used to live in the first place. Okay, I'm just going to start installing the whole thing. So if you're looking at it from the side, the transfer case basically lifts up, but the motor still sits in the same position. Now all that's left to do, take that old skid plate out and replace it with the new flat one. So after a bit of fidgeting, I finally installed the flat skid plate. From the top, this is what it looks like. The gears are open now. Sorry, I have the remote on already. Let me just grab the transmitter. So the gears are open, which is actually not a problem. I have a axial with open gears as well, so this is actually fully functional. I don't have an issue with it being open because I've never gotten anything caught in there, and I've also never meshed a gear, to be quite honest, and I've had that truck for a very long time. So this is kind of what it looks like. The motor is still sitting down below. The only thing underneath the truck that I had a little bit of an issue with was the front linkages. They are a little bit offset. If you look at it on the, well, now this is the right side of the truck, there is a little bit more material than on the left because I think it's made for a carbon chassis, not for the actual aluminium chassis. So I've just plonked this in here, put some spaces in underneath and moved the chassis a little bit over to the left, but I think in the future I think I need to change my chassis rails as well. So let's hit the trailer and see how much more clearance I'm getting out of this truck. Now the truck looks a little bit more like a race truck. Anyway guys, let's see how well it does on the Mountain Crawler Raceway. Pick up a little bit of speed here. Taking it slow through to the first obstacle. Getting that front bumper just over the edge of that rock. And let's climb this obstacle. There we go. Easy does it. Go on, go on, go on, go on. Seem to be sliding away. Losing a bit of grip on the rear axle there. There we go, got it. And off we go to the next. Now basically it was always hanging itself up on the downhills. As soon as it came over a bigger ledge, it would just get stuck. Would be good if I don't fall or if I can actually stay where I am. Let me actually take these two and just pull this out quickly because they're kind of in our shot. There we go. Okay. So, okay, hang on. Loose rocks. Okay, let's straighten our wheels while we go over this obstacle, because don't know if you know the TRX 4 sitting on portal axles. As soon as you turn in, the front wheel kind of moves to the back. So try and keep it as straight as possible, and let's drive in a straight line over this obstacle that we always got stuck on. Yeah, she is sliding a little bit on this obstacle, but remember, we got stuck on this very often. We always had to do this with speed. Let's see if we can get this to crawl. There we go. Getting it. There we go. Although it is a centimeter difference in height, that we have a little bit more clearance, it seems to just slide over. I mean, that was not as high speed as I normally did it. Normally I had to just gap it a bit, just give a bit of wheel speed in there, and then we would pop over that edge. Now we can kind of just take it easy and keep our slow crawl. So that's definitely a difference. I never really had an issue with the V-notch. I could always just climb this. Never had a big issue with that. Let's just see how we do that here. Let's follow the truck while it's climbing up here. Need a bit of speed, heating up the tires a bit. And let's pop up there. There we go. Riding on the rock sliders. There we go. I used to have an issue coming over this rock where it would belly out as well. Let's see if we have an issue today. What would happen down there is I would touch and get hooked. Let's see if I can just keep crawling slow as possible. Straighten out the wheels. Looks like we are managing to just slip past. So that 1 centimeter is doing a big difference, which is probably 10 centimeters on a real truck. So 10 centimeters on a real truck sounds better than 1 centimeter on a 1 to 10 truck. So guys, that skid plate definitely does make a difference. I think the next step would be to put a carbon chassis in here, because the skid plate is made for a carbon chassis. I think that's the next step we have to do with the TRX 4, just to get that capability to just climb a little bit more. Anyway guys, that's it for me for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. And we did make it.